Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. Happy New Year to you. We appreciate you joining us. This segment brought to you by Blue Smoke Cigar and Smokin' Joe's. Smokin' Joe's, the original company. They're located down in Alcoa. Terrific walk-in humidor. Really nice place down there. Okay, something going on down there. Best not to do that while I'm plugging the sponsor. Anyway, also the new shop, Blue Smoke Cigar. If you haven't tried it yet, you need to. If you're a cigar aficionado, you need to get out to West Knoxville. It's right there on South Peters Road, right across from Rafferty's. Terrific. It's a members-only kind of a club in the back room where they've got the TVs, the card tables, the games, everything. It's outstanding. And even if you're not a member, they've got a great big walk-in humidor, great selection, terrific prices. Blue Smoke Cigar out in West Knoxville and Smokin' Joe's down in Alcoa. Get down there and see them. We appreciate them bringing you the overtime segment on this show every week. I appreciate these guys, even if they are acting up during the sponsor plug. Chuck Cavaleris, Sterling Hinton, Josh Ward, Bobby Scott. I just want to do real quick predictions for 2017. And we'll work our way through the top 3 revenue sports in order. I'll be interested to see. I think we're going to get the same answer out of Sterling for all 3. We'll see. Question number 1, will the Lady Vols be better or worse in 2017 than they were in 2016?
I will say better as the year goes along. Now, the start of the season has been very frustrating again, but that's similar to last year. I'll say through SEC play, I'll say the season will play out throughout the entire year. Last year, they made a run in the NCAA tournament.
All the way to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, so I'll say through SEC play, that's what will make it better.
And I also think the start of next year should be better because you're going to have a tremendous recruiting class show up if everything goes to plan. I think the Lady Vols will be better in 2017 than 2016. Agree, disagree, anybody?
I think they'll be better. I absolutely think they'll be better.
Well, especially with the recruiting class coming in. But it's been a tough go. It really has. And it's been tougher than what you would have thought it would have been. But who does well replacing a legend?
That's right. That's
well,
what
I mean,
was just fixing to say. You got, her, replacing, even though she was, Coach Summit was her mentor or whatever you want to call it. When you step in there behind somebody like that, I mean, it's hard.
Oh, you don't see how many people, the list of guys who followed legends and become, or girls who followed legends and become legends themselves, very short. Mm-hmm. Very, very short, which we said when they promoted her. I think she was the right hire. I still think she was the right hire. I think the expectations are going to prove to be too unrealistic for her or anybody else to live up to that role. Like, go back and look at Joe B. Hall trying to replace Adolph Rupp at Kentucky. Final Fours, national champion, not good enough. Yeah. That's tough. All right. Men's basketball, better or worse in 2017? I think if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said you're going to lose Hubs. I don't know. Now, I'm in on Barnes. I think no fans were thrilled with any of these recruits that he's playing out there, these freshmen who are playing their guts out. He built Texas the same way. He built Texas by going and getting guys who fought and played his style of system. I mean, that's what he went. It wasn't Kevin Durant in year 1. And I think that when you look at what he's doing with this bunch now, I reversed what I was thinking. I think they're going to be better next year than they are this year.
No question they're going to be better. I mean, they're going to have time to gel. And another thing about basketball, it's all about rhythm. Guys being able to play with each other. They're going to play with each other a lot more, and next year they're going to have that experience, and the guys are going to add to the pieces to the pie. I mean, basketball, you can get a freshman and have an impact play and get in there and make something happen. So I'm excited about our basketball program, big time.
Need to start getting some.
Yeah,
and
you
they
need to
some
get
height.
that one right, and that's proven tough to do. I mean, especially, I think you've got to have somebody more in the post, more of that 6'8". Especially talking about lining up with Kentucky and some of these SEC. You got to have one more piece to the puzzle to be able to take that next step.
Better or worse next year? You think worse?
I don't think they'll be better. Just because they're going to have more time playing together, and with his system, and like Mark Pancrantz has said, the way he works them, even after a win, he works them just as hard as if it was a loss.
Better or worse?
I think Tennessee's men's basketball team will absolutely be better. They're also right now better at dealing with a down Robert Hubbs performance than I thought they would be. I thought if you had a game like at Texas A&M where he goes for 6 points, then the team's just not going to be able to handle it, especially as they've dealt with injuries to the freshmen who have had to step up as well. And Tennessee kind of has the Robert Hubbs replacement in line. Jalen Johnson, who is redshirting this year, they really like what his potential is. So as a redshirt freshman next year, I don't know that he starts and comes in and makes a big impact right away, but helps fill that role as other freshmen right now step up into bigger positions next year.
Bobby, men's basketball better or worse?
I think it'll be a little bit better. I'm like you, Barnes. I like his attitude, the way he handles his team.
I think he's. You can make people mad, but I think if you're looking best bench coach, we'll see about the recruiting thing. I get that, and I think you may look at it and say, all right, who runs the whole program and all this stuff. But in terms of bench coaches, there's a reason this guy's going into the Hall of Fame. I think he's the best bench coach you've ever had here. And for those who are saying, but Bruce, well, they've gone at each other, and I've seen Barnes beat Bruce. I've seen Bruce beat Barnes. Hard to argue with the number of wins that Barnes has. He does things that he gets more out of less than I thought he could.
Probably brings back memories to me of what Don DeVoe did in some ways, and especially as the pure coach. Really
he
respect
was
it.
a bench coach.
Yes.
Too. I mean,
yes.
he got more out of players than I ever thought he could.
Yeah, I would also add that Barnes' scheduling ability, which I think is underrated or doesn't get enough attention, that could make them a potential NCAA tournament sleeper next year, because if they schedule right and get some wins, which they came close to this season, that makes a big difference with your RPI and where things are. If you win those big games that you schedule, and he knows how to schedule.
All right, the biggie, UT football, better or worse in 2017? You lose a lot of guys. We've all sat here and said, boy, if you didn't have Josh Dobbs this year, you don't win 9. Your schedule's not going to be easy. You open with Georgia Tech. In case you missed it, they beat Kentucky yesterday. They've beaten Georgia and Vanderbilt already. Paul Johnson, the normally not a loud mouth kind of coach, he said afterwards, hey, we're 3-0 against the SEC East, and we got Tennessee next. Wow. You're down there in Atlanta, not at their place, but at the new dome that they kept showing yesterday during the bowl game. But you've got Georgia Tech to open. You got a visit from LSU late in the season. That's your West opponent. They never draw Mississippi State in a down year. It's always some good team. And you've got Southern Miss, bowl team. That's not a bad team. That's the kind of team that can upset you, play a good game. You're at Florida, at Alabama. I got to say they're going to be worse next year.
Well, didn't we think that would be a down year after this year anyway?
Yes, we went into this year saying
that. And until you know about the strength and conditioning coach, I think you have to say it's going to be worse.
I agree.
Here
we go.
I'm just going to keep it 100 real with you guys. The thing that we're losing here, the perspective, is that we had a lot of young guys play this year under duress. So we're coming back, although they're young, we're coming back with some experience. We're going to have more guys healthy. So I think we're going to do better on that premise alone, because we won't lose a game on 3, give up 3 touchdowns on 3 mental mistakes. They're going to be harder to get those touchdowns next year. We're going to make those catches when they're in our receivers' hands next year. And who knows? Man, that gives us 3, maybe 3 more wins. I'm just saying.
Very positive. Yeah. Very positive.
To say the least.
Josh.
Hey, it's real.
Yeah, I won't be as positive. I'll reserve the right to change my mind, by the way. But right now, with the loss of Josh Dobbs, I think that's a bigger loss than a lot of people want to admit right now. Alvin Kamara's already declared. And right now, with the thought that Josh Malone probably will as well, you could argue those are your 3 best offensive weapons or offensive players. Now, the offensive line comes back, and that helps, but strength and conditioning then becomes a big deal.
And the offensive line hasn't shown much improvement year upon year upon year.
Right, so that would be still a big talk of discussion of potential replacing Derek Barnett. Cam Sutton, who you didn't play a lot of the season with, but there are questions at corner. I have too many questions right now with the schedule, what it is next season, to say that they'll be better.
Yeah,
I would have to say worse right now.
Yeah. Bobby.
I'm gonna say close to the same, but maybe a tad better. I'd like to see them. Wow. I'd like to see them win, 9 games again and maybe 10. And
Tough.
We know you
I know
like
it's,
to
I
see
know
it.
it's tough.
Yeah,
I
we
know
know you'd
it's
like
tough.
to.
I know that's what I'm
Do you
saying.
think they'll do it though? We're not talking
I
about
think there's a possibility, but it's like anything else. It's an uphill climb.
All right, we're gonna. All right, here's the. We're double or nothing here. You have to say better or worse. You have to declare it. Will they be better or worse, or else Chuck gets to keep the trophy?
I've already given it back to him. I mean,
He's going to say better asterisk.
Let me finish with another question here. All right. Next year on New Year's Day, and the show won't be on New Year's Day, but you get the point.
Right.
Next year, this show, will we still be talking about Holly Warlick, Rick Barnes, and Butch Jones as Tennessee's coaches?
I say absolutely yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
You
Yes,
think
I
so?
think so.
Yes.
I say no. And the one I would say is most likely to change would be the football coach.
Okay. Bobby.
I'm going to say yes there. I think they'll all be here.
I think a lot of it depends on who you hire as an athletic director. If David Blackburn, who does have a knowledge of Butch Jones and vice versa, if he comes in, I think that's good for Butch Jones. I may be wrong, but I think that would be good for Butch Jones, because I think that as someone who has been at Tennessee, he may be the kind that would come in and say, you know what was good here for years? Stability. I'm not going to come in and just whack you in day one. Whereas I think if you go out and get any new boss, I've been a new boss and gone into television stations and said, we're going to give everybody a fair shake. And I've already got my mind made up that I'm bringing somebody else in. It's human. It's human nature. If you get an athletic director, Greg Byrne from Arizona, great athletic director. If you bring him in, I think there's a greater chance of him with no UT ties saying, we're going to start the Greg Byrne era. And I'm just throwing that out there as an example. Could Joe Schmo era. Whereas I think if you bring in David Blackburn, who has that tie to Tennessee and who has had communications with Butch Jones, he may be more likely to say, if Butch Jones, let's say he goes 7-5 next year. All right, a drop back was kind of a rebuilding year, but not a drop off the map. And let's say your quarterback show positivity. Okay, well, I'm going to stick with this guy because I think next year will be better. I think he's got a better chance, depending on who that AD is, if it's Blackburn, than he would if it's just somebody off the street.
And I think a lot of times somebody's going to suggest, if that were to happen, John, that staff changes would be in order before the head coach would be.
And it'll be interesting to see what he does this year, because I think a lot of people are anticipating staff changes anyway. I know for a fact he's already spoken to some coaches out there. So there are going to be changes. The question is, what are the changes going to be? Who's going to retire? Who's going to decide to move on? Who's going to move into a different role? Do you keep the breakdown the same way, or do you move guys around? Does Helfrich come in as a quarterback coach or a consultant? Oregon's paying him.
Right.
You know, what does he do?
And one thing that Butch Jones, there's not a lot of options if he were to want to leave on his own, which I wouldn't blame him. But if he were to want to leave, we kind of found out that this year, didn't we? There's not a lot of really better jobs.
I don't know about better jobs, but I know some people want them. I don't know about better jobs.
But there aren't many great coaches hired to the jobs that were open. I mean, you had Oregon, LSU, and Texas, and they hired guys that you kind of went, oh, okay. I mean,
it was a weird coaching market, which could potentially change with NFL.
Chip Kelly could change things big next year.
Sure. But with this year being pretty stale in terms of what happened, LSU and Texas making moves very quickly, maybe next year gets a little more wild.
Yeah. Well, I think Coach Jones showed that he wanted to be here this year because he had some options. People reached out to him, and he showed he wanted to be here. So that alone says, we got a guy who's hot with the big orange.
Well, before he came here, he said it was his dream job.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he meant any job of this size. Sure. I doubt he grew up in Michigan dreaming of Tennessee. But I do think, look, he wants to be here. He wants to win here. Again, I think, it's now become the negative is the story came out that he listens too much. You can't win with some people. If he doesn't talk enough to the fans, they say, Rick Barnes, he's not out in the community enough. Conzo Martin, he didn't do enough to the community. He didn't court us. We need a cheerleader. Butch Jones cares. Good Lord, that's all he does. And the fans say, he listens too much. He's too sensitive about it. He cares too much. Well, hell, what's he supposed to do?
You can't win for losing.
There's a certain segment, and in every fan base, but there's certainly a segment here that he can't win for losing. And that's one thing that I think is dangerous for him next year. And we'll probably talk about this on a Sunday show coming up. But next year, if they beat Georgia Tech, and they beat Florida, and they beat Georgia, then they lose to Alabama, all those people who are already off the bandwagon, most of those people are people that didn't want, they're the same ones that sent him obscene text the day he was hired. We don't want you here. Talk about all Twitter. I mean, I've never seen it. I'm sure schools do that, but you've never heard that anywhere. I'm sure it's those same people. They never were going to accept him. Next year, if he wins those first few games and loses to Alabama, seen this before. I knew. He's not going to get credit from those people. And those people influence other people. So I think that's one of the biggest tricks to his survival next year is how many average Vol fans out there are still in his corner. I think he would have to look at the attendance in Nashville and feel pretty good that there are a lot of people that may not be on Twitter, may not be calling into radio shows, may not be emailing me, but they're still in his corner.
I agree.
Yeah, there were a lot of fans that did care about the Music City Bowl win. It wasn't the Citrus Bowl or the Sugar Bowl that they wanted, but they still cared. Obviously, they supported the game itself, and they cared after the fact that they won.
I don't know if you had the volume up when they dumped the Gatorade on Butch Jones. It's an audible cheer in the stadium. Okay, now that's people who were there. Those people want a title. You better believe they did. But they enjoyed that game,
Absolutely.
and they enjoyed the team celebrating and rewarding the coach. I think he's got more people on his side than I probably thought a month ago.
And I think a lot of fans stayed around too for Josh leading the band and Derek Barnett leading the band, and they had a pretty good little party afterwards.
And John, you nailed it about the perspective thing, because with a lot of fans, it's championship or bust. It's championship or failure. And like I think you said, that's not a very healthy outlook to have.
No, I mean, when Patriots fan, everybody's going to say, well, who wouldn't like that? Yeah, you try this out. You go 18-0, lose the Super Bowl in the last 2 minutes. You talk about the most miserable experience of a person's life in terms of sports fans. That was it. And yet, you can't complain. I didn't complain after that. Now I sat there numb like this. But afterwards, it's like, team went 18-0. How many great moments? Touchdown, Randy Moss records, Tom Brady records. No championship. I get it. Zero-sum game in the pros more than college. But I didn't look at it and say, failure of a year.
Yeah.
It's okay to be disappointed in the moment, angry and frustrated.
Yes.
While also still appreciating the good. And there was a lot of good, as you pointed out in the main show, with a lot of moments, an all-time moment with the Hail Mary, the win over Florida. There were a lot of good moments with the season. So you can appreciate while also recognizing some disappointment that came with it.
Critical doesn't necessarily mean negative. Critical just means you can have a critical eye on something without saying, oh, look, I found a flaw, get rid of him. If we treated our own coach the way we treat, again, that Florida State-Michigan game, I was watching that thing, man, this is great. And it dawned on me, how many people watching this here in Knoxville saying, wow, what a great game. If that were Tennessee out there giving up those big plays, they'd be saying, this stupid defense, they got a fire Bob shoot. They're not enjoying it, they're outraged. And I guarantee you, Michigan and Florida State fans were mad at their defensive coordinators out there.
And Michigan gave their defensive coordinator a 5-year contract at $1 million a year.
Before that, not after that.
Well,
not as a reward for
He
that.
signed it after.
Yeah. So.
What I like to see our fan base embrace is the way that our coaching staff and players this year overcame so much adversity. I mean, I know we want to win championships. Trust me, I want to win probably more than half of you guys that are complaining. I really want to see my Big Orange football team win a championship. But the adversity is incredible, and the fact they came over that. I mean, you literally, just because we got our best guy, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best guy on the next team we're playing against in that same position. Now we got our best guy 5 deep hurt or not there playing. We got guys moving to different positions because they're the best at a position that they didn't come to play. Another guy having to play under duress. I mean, that takes some incredible amount of continuity for a team to come together and some extra attention as a coach to put into his team. We've got to look at that adversity that was overcome. And we had an SEC, all SEC running back who, unfortunately, things happened. Another guy stepped up. So
he quit.
Look at those things.
That's the thing that happened.
Look at those things, Vol fan base, and say, man, now we got to win on the bowl game. Let's see what really happened this year and embrace it.
Let me close with one thought on that I think everyone here but you will agree with. In terms of facing adversity and everything, Butch Jones, like all coaches before him, doesn't need to be the one making that case. When he's the one making the case and saying, I've had coaches call me and ask, how did you get through this? The people who don't like him aren't going to hear that. It's going to make them mad. It's one reason, if I were his advisor, I would say, silent treatment. Be a Belichick. They're not going to like you anyway. Don't give them a thing. That'd make people mad. They're mad anyway. I would tell him to dial down some of that stuff. let shows like this, who are fair and honest, when they're bad numbers, we show them. When they're good numbers, we show them. Let us be the ones that sit there and say, this is what you overcame this year. Don't go out and try and do it yourself, because we've seen coaches here try and make the case for themselves, and it doesn't often work.
I agree.
And I think that Butch Jones does that a little too much. I think it goes back to his caring about it. But do you agree, disagree, that he needs to let somebody else do the publicity?
I do agree. After the game, selling to the fans, hey, we won. I think he said your team has won 15 of its last 19 games, which is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But fans also know that all 4 of those losses are this season, and 2 of them were South Carolina Vanderbilt. So just don't mention that. Just don't.
Or
don't
let
do that.
somebody else
let-
mention it.
let the media run the numbers and let the fans react how they're going to, because they will react no matter what.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. If I were in his position, though, I think anybody in that position would be wanting to fight back. Hey, no, wait a second. You're all mad. Look what we've done. But you're not going to get anywhere.
I would not have been
agree?
defending champions of life this week. I would have just let that pass on
Now you got me coughing.
into the discussion.
All right.
And it's okay to be honest about saying we're disappointed, and winning the SEC East was a go.
Yes.
It had to be a go.
Yes. Should have said
Come on.
that. Should have owned that.
Come on.
Should have owned it like that.
Especially after you beat, after you go down there and beat Florida.
Yep. You should have won
I mean,
it. But.
after that, you should say, hey,
All
right
right.
here in
Good
our
stuff.
lap.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
it was. All right, Chuck, Sterling, Josh, Bobby, thanks for coming in here. I got to race home to watch the Patriots game. Hopefully they won't lose and I won't be left doing this. Thank you very much for watching on this holiday. We'll see you next Sunday, 11. We talk football, basketball, recruiting on the Sports Source. Thank you.